Good evening. My name is Diego D'Alessio. I come from Buenos Aires, Argentina. During the past decade, I worked for many Fortune 500 companies. Right now, I'm the founder of FileMaker Jedi. I hope I don't get sued by Lucasfilm for this name, maybe. Which is a developer-to-developer consulting firm. I'm a FileMaker certified developer, a certified Scrum Master, and also a certified forensic computer legal expert. I'm a huge Beach Boys fan. I'm a biker, musician, a Star Trek fan, a comedian. Yeah, I do believe pro wrestling is for real. I want to keep. I'm a scoutmaster, and I'm the proud father of Simon, my teenage son. Of course, this is the best photo he allowed me to take. Anyway, so before we begin, I'd like to know how many in-house developers are here. Don't raise your hand. We're gonna do it in a more Italian way. In-house developers say, hey! Hey! Okay, good. Independent developers say, ho! Ho! Really? Okay, so let's try again. I wrote down the words. Okay, so in-house developers say, hey! Hey! Independent? Ho! Okay. I thought it was going to be 50-50, but we're good. Let's start when this story began. It was 1990, and it was the golden era of the audio CD. I don't know if you remember those things that don't exist anymore. And at that time, my favorite band, the Beach Boys, re-released the Pet Sounds album. And I asked my father for money to buy it. I was 15 at that time, and my father told me, okay, if you want it, then go and work for it. And at that time, we had a Mac at our home, and I started playing with this software called FileMaker, and I built a little solution for a doctor that lived nearby. And since that day, I never ever stopped working. So this is a simple chart that shows my revenue per year since 1990 up to today. And you know, thanks to FileMaker, I was able to buy my house, pay for my son's education, and I had really a very good life until you see here something happened. I had a bike accident. I spent 3 months in ICU. It took me a year to be able to work again. While I was in ICU, I was dead for 5 minutes. I didn't see any light, nothing, you know. But it was really a very intense experience. And I remember one morning waking up, and I was thinking, okay, if I don't get anything from this experience, then I'm done. So, you know, it was at that particular moment that I realized that I was able to write an encyclopedia of all the mistakes I've made in order to learn from them and then to be able to get back on my feet again. And yeah, I know that I wrote a notebook of achievements. I like myself. So for me at that time, you know, staying in business was like juggling. But with fire, with my ears covered, you know, under a meteor storm, and with my life depending on it. This was the cycle I was within. You know, I was delivering a product, sending the invoice, paying the bills, and I was in this cycle. And for each product I was working on, I was repeating this cycle. And the problem with this cycle is that if something breaks, then everything falls apart. So I came up with this concept of having a healthy or an unhealthy development process. I'm going to tell you a story of an unhealthy development process that it started with a meeting that, yeah, everyone was happy, and it ended up with me on the floor. And I'm going to tell you how this happened. I began with the meeting. I got the requirements. I did a quoting, it was accepted. I went to my office, I started coding. Then I got feedback from the client. Then I got more requirements plus the pending items. Then I was fixing some errors. Then I was getting more requirements from the client. But I was fixing all the new errors, and I got more requirements, and I was stuck with a bloody error, and I was having more requirements, and I was stuck with that error, but I had to do the quoting again, but he asked me for more requirements. And I was so stressed out of this situation that, I was very stressed because I wasn't able to keep on with other projects, and I was riding my bike. I didn't see that there was a bump on the floor, and I ended up on the floor. So that's what happened. So let's say for the same kind of project, how a healthy development process should be. Oh yeah, you can see here I marked the places where I think that everything started going wrong, which is like everything. So a healthy development process, starts with a meeting, you get the requirements, you estimate your effort, you do the quoting, and you deliver the MVP. MVP here stands for minimum viable product. I'm going to talk about it later on. So once I deliver the MVP, I go back to the user and I get more requirements, I estimate the effort again, and I deliver the next MVP. And this cycle can go on as many times as needed. And the result of this is that everyone's happy. So let's talk a little bit about MVP. MVP is it's for agile methodology. How many here you know about what MVP stands for? Okay. You're going to give a session about MVP, so you don't count. Okay, so let's say that our user asks us to create a solution that is to take us from place A to B. And we start discussing, and we know that the final result should be a car. So with a standard development process, on the first iteration, you would build a wheel, which is part of the car, and you can go and you can show it to your user, but the user can't go to the market with just a wheel. Okay? So for the next iteration, you build a transmission, you build another set of wheels, but once again, the user can't go with that to the market. On the third one, you build the chassis, it is okay, but again, it's not useful. And finally, you deliver the car. Now, if we change the paradox and we think, okay, what's the MVP, the minimum valuable product that we can give to the user so he can start going from place A to B? And what we can build really fast is a skateboard. Okay? And once the user starts using the skateboard, we learn, okay, that the road is uphill, and we can get more information about the user. So for the next iteration, we build a bike, which is okay, he can change gears, it's more comfortable, but the user might get tired. So for the next iteration, we put an engine to that bike. And it's okay, now he can go fast, but what happens if it rains? So finally, for the last iteration, we deliver the car. So this is the main difference. In an MVP process, in each process we are delivering a part of the product, the minimum viable product. So Another thing that each MVP consists on a set of features. Okay, so we have this feature list that we got from our client, and what we're going to do is we're going to get and select a set of features, and we're going to group them in what we call our sprint. So we deliver the sprint, and then once we deliver the sprint, we get another set of features, and we deliver the next sprint. Then we can go back, we can talk to the user, we get more information, we know more about their process, we get more features, and we can repeat this process on and on and on. But as I'm using Agile, I'm calling it the backlog. So if you see words like backlog, sprint, MVP, that's Agile. So you can see that for the third sprint, it's just repeating this same process. If you need to more agile, go to Karen's session, FileMaker. Karen, say hi. Hey. At 4. Okay. So one of the benefits of the MVP is that we can, deliver a lot of bits of our products in a certain time frame. Note here, I created what I call the health line. Everything above the health line, it's something that I consider that might take me a lot of effort and might damage my health. So I'm always aware now of the stress that I get and the impact I have on my health. So we start delivering, each bar represents a different MVP and each color a different project. So notice what happened here. For some reason, I went above my health line, so how do I solve this? And it's as simple as by adding another member to our development team. And the good thing with delivering MVPs is that, and by working with sprints, is that as you're delivering tiny parts of the project, you can work with another developer. Let's say you're doing a FileMaker and PHP integration just for that sprint. So it's a very easy way to start splitting the effort. So wrapping up here, I don't know how many of you suffered any of these cons, cumulative delays, clients getting impatient, being stressed, How many of you here suffered any of this? Just, wow. Okay. On the flip side, the healthy method, by the way, this is my wall, and this is a typical sprint, an MVP wall. It will look like something like this. I think there are a lot of pros, and one of the things is that, I don't remember, independent developers? Hey, how many? Again, how many independent developers? Okay, so for independent developers, one of the benefits here is that I think that your cash flow is more predictable, because you can make a contract and you say, okay, in this time frame, I'm gonna deliver 10 MVPs. So if the users start adding features or something more, you are still delivering 10 MVPs, and the features that you agree that you are not putting into the MVPs, they will remain on the backlog. So I realized with this method, cash flow is more predictable. For in-house developers, you are having a better relationship with the user that you have to work with every day, because your deliverables are more predictable. For example, what I do is I always implement on Mondays. I never ever, it's a rule, a golden rule that I have, I never ever implement on a Friday, because I like to have weekends. So I implement on Monday, and I start my sprint on Tuesday. So one thing that I realized over the years is that the user has a misperception about us developers, and I think this clip shows a little bit about it.
Now, this wheel balancing is free, right?
Oh, you betcha, absolutely. Wait a minute. These tires won't take a balance.
They won't.
No. You hear that clunk?
No.
Yeah, that tells me you need 4 new tires.
Really?
Yeah. Legally, I can't even let you drive out of here on these.
Oh, please, can't you let me slide this time?
Gee, I'd really like to, but if my boss found out, I'd...
All right, what's going on over here? Were you gonna let this man drive out of here on unsafe tires?
No, boss, I swear.
That's it. You're fired.
No, wait! This is all my fault! Oh, if I could only turn back the clock and buy 4 new tires.
Okay. So you get the idea that I realize that sometimes users have this wrong perception about us. I hope about all of us here they have the wrong perception. So one thing that I've been working on very hard is to change that perception. And one way is having a very good communication with the user. I rely a lot on a ticketing system, you know, where the user creates a ticket and you keep a log of it. I'm using Freshdesk here. This is my real board, so I'm doing very good with users. I can see all the tickets that I have opened. So let's click here, and here is a list of pending items. You will notice that there is a robot. It's a Dalek, actually. And every time the server runs a script and something goes wrong, it will create a ticket. And it will go into urgent priority, and it will send me an SMS message. In this platform, I can go into and look into any user, and I can see, okay, I can see all the tickets that particular user created, so I have a better understanding of what's going on with a user. So now let's see how it works with FileMaker. This is a solution I have. I create the ticket. So the user can write a title, you know, the subject, and a description. Usually users are very vague when they're writing support tickets. So this is an example of a very vague ticket. There's no layout, anything written there. So after a few seconds, I get a message telling the user that the ticket was created and the ID of the ticket. Plus, the user gets an email telling that the ticket was created. Now, if I go to the ticket platform, click open, there's the ticket I created. And you see that it automatically assigned the product, the type of ticket, and it will also give me the context of where the ticket was created. So there's a tag up there that it said the context where the user created the ticket. Plus, I get a screenshot of the user screen when the ticket was created. So I have a better understanding of what's really going on. And now I can go back to my platform. I can see what was going on. The user said that there was no poster because there's no image there, so I just do a quick reply. And the good thing with having a ticketing system is that if you're working on a team, you can assign different tickets to different members of your team, so you can have a better organization of your workflow. So I set the ticket as resolved, and now if I refresh the screen, the ticket is gone. So wrapping up on tickets. There are many solutions. Remember, I use Freshdesk, but you can also use Zendesk, and there are many more platforms. Use whatever you want, as long as you can integrate it via API with FileMaker. And always, remember that if there's an issue, learn before the user calls you. If you know that something went wrong with your server or a script didn't run, work on a way for you to know it before the user, so you can alert the user and tell the user, okay, we know that something is going wrong, we are working on it. Another important thing, although the end user will not see your code, is to use proper naming conventions. I use FileMakerStandards.org as a starting point. I think that using consistent and simple naming conventions allows you to work with other developers, and you don't have to start thinking your own naming conventions. Plus, you have some benefits. Let me show you one thing I do in every project. Instead of calling my modules, invoices, clients, etc., I add a number to each module. So it's like O200s would be clients. And one of the benefits here is that all my scripts for that module are numbered with that numbering. So let's say here I have to create a new script for this module, that is the 200 modules. So I write 256, it's empty. So my new script is going to be O256, and then I write a description. I go there, and boom, it's at the end. And one of the benefits in using this sort of naming technique is that, for example, here I have this print icon, and I'm using zero trust, so no user can click here and get a result. So mainly what I'm doing is I'm adding a script at the beginning of every script, and when I call that script, I send the script name as a parameter. What I do is I remove all the letters, so I only get with the number portion, which is 222 in this case. And then what I'm doing is I'm doing an execute SQL in a users table that I have. And if the account name matches that particular number, then I will allow the user to run the script. It's very simple. So here it's my, let's find here 222, and I have the users that can run the script. So remember, by default, any user that logs into the system will not be allowed to perform a script. So if I want to remove this user, I just delete it from the table, and now I can re-log in as a user that has no permissions. Okay, and when the user clicks here, it will tell the user that it hasn't permissions for the script 222. I give the option to click on a button and request for that permission. And once again, I'm creating a ticket, and if the manager approves, then I will grant access to that script. Another benefit, of having this sort of clean and neat naming convention is that when you export the DDR, you will find, let's go to scripts here. You will find that everything looks very clean and tidy and very organized. So if I click on a particular script, everything, once again, it's very tidy, very organized. So I think it's very important. And one thing that is important here is, see right there, I'm writing check script 233. So by using this technique, I also am using it for layouts. If I have some sort of bug or something is going wrong, it's way easier to write something is wrong in 233 that rather than on layout object enter OK, lower dash OK. You know, when we have this, so it really helps you organize your work. By using this technique, I realize that I'm less prone to errors. I have prizes. I'm going to give them at the end of the session, but you have to be honest with me, okay? So we're going to talk about development stages and why do we need them. So what happens if I run this script on my production server and I don't have any related records? 1, 2, 3. What happens? Something know what's going to happen? You are nodding, yeah? Yeah, you're a winner. Come see me later. Yeah, this script has a very nasty error which might delete all records from the table. Okay? Because, well, if you have any doubts, I'll explain you later why, but this is a very simple mistake you can make, and it will delete all records from the table. So that's why we need to have proper development stages, development, testing, and productions. Now, the first one, have a prize. Who did this? Went from development directly to production. You are a winner, but you're a speaker, so you are a winner. Okay, and whoever did this, you're a winner, sir. Okay, never, ever.
I should say my previous person who I inherited from, that's how.
Okay, but you did it? Okay, but you did it? Okay. Okay, so just checking, you know, proper development stages, development, testing, production, okay? So how do we do it with FileMaker? We start with our production version, let's call it 1.15, and what I do is I create a snapshot, I create a copy, and I send it to my development machine, and I rename it 1.16a, because this is a minor change. If I have, I've been working on a file, that is what I call the research and development file, I will copy the changes into that file. Then what I'll do is I will create another copy of 1.15, send it to testing, and I will apply the changes that I did in 1.16a into 1.16b. And I will have a pre-flight list of all the changes that I'm doing. If something goes wrong in testing, I'll go back to development and I will repeat this cycle. Now, if everything is okay, I'm going to read that pre-flight list I did, and I will apply the changes into 1.15. So now 1.15, it's 1.16. With the announcements that they did on Monday, this process might change a little bit in the future, but right now it's the way I'm doing it. So this is the pre-flight list I was telling you. I'm using Google Spreadsheets, something very simple. I'm not using FileMaker because I need to have both screens at the same time. So I will write down the things that I need to copy or create. I do it on the test version, and then I recheck when I'm doing it in production. Later on, if we have time, I'll show you how I do the snapshot. I have a script that copies everything automatically. So now, let's say we have to apply a major update, a lot of changes. So we start with 1.16. We copy that file to development. We're going to name it 1.20a, because this is a major change. Once again, if I have my R&D file, I will apply changes there. Once it is okay in development stage, I will copy 120A into the testing environment. I will write down all the changes, so I have my changelog. And when I have an okay from the user, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna merge 116 with 120B. So I'm gonna use all the layouts, all the FileMaker file that's in 120B, and I'm gonna merge it with all the production information data that is from 116. So my final result is 120 in production with the data from 116 and the code of 120B. And the way to do that, nowadays we have the data migration tool, which is awesome. I've been using it for a while and it's very, very fast. So you can use the data migration tool that comes with your FileMaker developer subscription, which is, command line, or you can use 360works deploy, which is an awesome tool. I strongly recommend it. Oh, yeah. I added this dog cow here, so I have my reminders of things. Yeah, there are other data migration wrappers that you can check. I know that they're releasing them almost like every week now. So now, as FileMaker developers, what do you think that are the real world dangers that we face? I'd like to hear from you. Data loss. Other? Hardware failure. Yeah. Other? User's error. Yeah, absolutely. I think you said, yeah, there's also fire and theft. And there are different ways to prevent them, but I think there's one common denominator for all of them, that is backup. What's the word? Okay. Backup, 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 backup. So this is the backup strategy I use for all of my projects. I think the engineers at FileMaker did a great job adding better backup features during the last upgrades. So that's one of the major reasons not to stay versions behind. I strongly recommend you, 16, and if you can, 17. So this is a project. You see there are my FileMaker files there, and I have the RC data FMS where all the external media is stored. So here's what I do. I do incremental backups of the FileMaker files, and I do it on a solid-state drive, hard drive, or drive. I do hourly backups, and I store it on a hard drive, on a mechanical drive, because it was there. And every night, I create a tar file. A tar file is like a zip file that contains all the FileMaker files. I create some text files I'm going to show you about, and I sync the RC data FMS, everything to the cloud. So I have all my backup, my daily backup, I have it on-site and I have it remote. It's important to do backups, but you must keep a track of your backups. So whenever I create a backup, I create a ticket. And if I see the ticket, I get the information when the backup was created, plus I have these text files. And if you take a look at the text file, here what I'm creating is the content of the tar file, and I get the information of the size of the file and the compressed size of the file. So it's a very fast way to know that, okay, this backup makes sense. One important thing is you have to create daily backups, but you have to, once a month or every 2 months, restore your backups. You have to restore them and check that everything is okay, because you might be backing up a corrupt FileMaker file, and you don't know it until it's too late. Another thing that I do is I create on a text file the MD5. This is the fingerprint of the file. This means that this backup file with this tar file with all the files inside has that ID, you know, the F3, etc. And if I copy that file and I copy it from a PC to a Mac, the fingerprint will be the same. So in this particular way, what I'm showing my user is that this backup is for real, that I didn't change a single thing from the backup. So if I'm gonna restore a backup, I'll tell, okay, this is the fingerprint of the backup, I'm gonna put it in this machine, we can check the fingerprint again, and then we can open the file. So in that way, we are guaranteeing our user that we didn't change a thing in the backup. Because if I change one bit, this changes. I think, yeah, we are more or less, yeah, we're good in time. So I think we have time to show you a little bit how it's done. We're gonna go into the super nerd zone here, which I'm very comfortable being in that zone. I don't expect to read everything what's inside, but the idea here is, what I'm doing is I'm writing a script file. It's a .bat file on Windows, .cmd on Mac, where I write all the steps, you know, okay, copy this file, move it to there, create this, do that. So every single step is written as lines, and all I have to do is run this script. So one thing, don't be afraid to use the terminal. How many here I say terminal and it's like, oh no, they don't use it? Okay, only one, two, right? Okay. You have prizes for being honest, yeah. So don't be afraid to use the terminal. It's okay, you know, you can do trial and error, of course, on your development machine or your testing. So when everything is okay, then you set it up in production. But you can do a lot of things. This thing that I did, that I create snapshots and everything, it's done in this way. So it's not that hard. There's a lot of documentation on the web, and if you need and you want these files, then I will give them. So another important thing is nowadays I'm using, you know, I don't use real computers anymore, I'm virtualizing. I do have the hardware, I have very powerful computers, but what I do is I create virtual machines. And the thing with the virtual machine is that you can create and you set up a new computer, and once that computer is running and it's okay, then the only thing that I have to do is duplicate that image, and I double click, and then I have my replica of that computer. So I create my production computer, and when it's done, I duplicate it, and that's my development machine. Another great thing in virtualization is that you can create snapshot files. So let's say you have to upgrade your FileMaker server. Well, before doing it, you create a snapshot file, you do the upgrade, and if everything went okay, you're good. If something went wrong, you double click on that file and you're in your previous state. One very, very important thing, if you are creating the snapshot file, you must stop FileMaker server. So you're going to have a downtime there. You have to take that into account. And this is more or less how my virtual machines look. So I have like the assigned memory, the time the machine was running, and you know, you see there, yeah, the Linux machine has been running for 256 days. And the server, yeah, sometimes I need to restart it or something like that. How many here saw this show? Yeah, I guess that's the reason why it got canceled. Yeah, yeah. One Sunday, it was a Sunday evening, I get a call from my aunt, and she told me, you know, you that know about computers, can you help me prevent, because a hacker might get into my laser printer and burn and set it on fire. And I go like, really? And where did you get that from? And she told me about this show, CSI Cyber, and I started looking at it, and I have so much fun. You know, these hackers with great interfaces, and you know, it's nothing like reality. But I started looking at it with my son, and we had a blast with it. So really, I renamed it CSI Paranoid, because it's, you know. But I think that you have to be a little bit paranoid here. I noticed that we Mac users are like very relaxed because we don't have viruses and we're using FileMaker, which is very secure. But nowadays, you know, we are working with the rest of the world. So please have a clean development environment. Your development machine, don't use it to download things from the cloud. Don't download MacKeeper. I don't know if anyone got into that. So, you know, you have to be like very aware and always have a clean. If you wanna, you know, have and download things and watch videos, use another computer. But always have a clean development environment. I think another important thing is ask to be audited. The reason that there are many studies that show that we developers unconsciously we know where we are making mistakes, and when we are testing, we avoid them. So the best way to, you know, don't be I say. Don't suffer from a bug you might have or some serious security issue. Ask to be audited. I ask to be audited every 3 to 4 months, and I don't have anything to hide. So work with someone else that will check your code, will check your environment, will check your infrastructure to see if there's something wrong. So it's a very good way to always prevent, you know, a disaster. And as you may have seen on the demos, log everything. I log everything. I log backups, I log scripts, I have a log of everything. And for example here, I use this on every solution. The user knows that I'm logging the changes. So if they click on that icon, I can see, well, it's in Spanish, but I think you get the idea. You had the date, the time, the IP, the username, the computer name, the name of the field, what was the previous information that was on the field, what's the new information on that field. So if I go and I change, let's say just one letter here, I click and you see there, I see the change. So for every single field, I have a log and I keep an audit log. So wrapping up here, you know, I think attitude is everything for us developers. We have to realize that what we build is what the user is using, maybe like 8 hours a day. So if something goes wrong, it might be really critical for them. So we have to empathize with the users. And another important thing is, I don't say no. I think it's way better to say yes, but. So if you're dealing with a user, you know, many years ago, a customer, I had a meeting, and he told me, and this is for real, he told me, I want you to build something like Google, but better. And it took me a second, and I go like, yes, but I'm gonna need $100 million just to begin. And it was a good way, you know, to just keep him away. You know, talking about users, I think you have to trust your instincts and avoid toxic users or customers. Because I don't know how many of you went into this situation when you go and you start talking with a user, and the user tells you, yeah, you know, I already tried this with 3 developers before you, and they didn't understand but I know that you are the chosen one. And your ego is like, oh, I'm the chosen one. But I think you have to take a minute and think, okay, why did this product fail 3 times before I arrive? And if your instinct tells you that this might not work, you know, use the yes but just take care of yourself, you know. And one important thing is that in my experience of almost 30 years, there's always a solution. You know, honestly, I spent many nights crying next to the computer, really. And it's like, I had a deadline, and I had to, you know, I had to deliver, and it wasn't working. But finally, you know, I always find a way. So, you know, there's always a solution. You know, part of the solutions I think is, right now we have a lot of development tools with FileMaker that will help us get in and solve that sort of problems. We have data analysis tool. We have plugins that solve almost everything. You can make coffee with a plugin right now, and really you can do it, you know. You can turn on your coffee machine. You can turn on your vacuum cleaner. I did it with FileMaker. So yeah, just for fun. And there are tools, you know, like the FMPower Developer Assistant, where you can find and replace within scripts. Now you can make repositories. And, you know, there's a web. When I started working, that didn't exist. You know, it really didn't exist, the internet. So we have a lot of resources right now. So yeah, I think I have time. Oh, this is an example now of this is base elements that you can compare, and you can see what's going on and what's wrong with your script. So once again, go to the booths there, and you see that there are a lot of ways that it can, you know, these folks work really hard to make our life easier. So. And one thing that I like with FileMaker is that I can create and build my own tools. Here I have a user that usually sends me a list of IDs because he needs some sort of reports from it. So I build a tool that I can go to the Excel file, and I can copy all the IDs. And then I go to FileMaker. This script is called paste with steroids in English. And when I paste it, I got all the IDs. Okay? And I can go to a different context and a different table that also has the foreign key as ID. And I go find, I go there, I do a paste on steroids. And boom, and there I got the result. And if we take a look at the script, you see that there are just a couple of lines. I'm using a plugin here. I'm using MBS, but it can also be done with base elements, which is free. So you see when I paste, mainly what I'm doing is with just one line, I'm getting the clipboard and I'm setting the clipboard into a variable. So there I have all my IDs, and then I do a simple loop. Enter file mode, new record, set field, new record, set field, new record, set field. And I do the loop until there are no more lines. So there it is, there it is, and I'm not gonna do it for 100 times. So let's run it till the end. And boom, there you have it. So it's a simple tool that I built just for myself. So, you know, here comes, I've been writing code since I'm 6 years old, and I learned that sometimes it's good to just use like 10 minutes or 15 minutes and say, okay, how can I do this programmatically? And then write the code. Instead of, you know, because I realized that, okay, for this scenario, it's, okay, you know, I have to like paste, or do an import and matching fields, and this is much more elegant. Wow, I did it in perfect time. So remember that we are our own tool, and we have to take good care of ourselves. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. We learn as we do. If you're in charge of a team, please don't punish the mistakes. Talk about them, learn about them. You know, when you finish each sprint or each MVP, you can start like discussing what went okay, what went wrong, but please don't be afraid to make mistakes. And finally, you know, always remember what's driving you to create new and better solutions. You know, truth is now whenever I listen to the pet sounds, I look behind, you know, and I'm so happy about this journey that I've been having with FileMaker next to me almost my entire life. So always remember what's your purpose and why we are here doing this. So thank you very much for your time.